This is Radio Nepal. I'm Kaushal Ghimire with the news. The headlines first. Top leaders hold discussions on completing remaining task of peace process. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal pledges to lobby developed countries to fulfill their commitments for climate action. Communication and Information Technology Ministry urges all not to use unsecured networks. And Hamas leader says the group is close to reaching truce agreement. Now the news in detail. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal Prachanda discussed various aspects of the Comprehensive Peace Accord, CPA, with the ruling party Nepali Congress President Sherbadu Dewa and the main opposition party CPN-UML chairperson KP Sharma Oli yesterday. At the meeting held at Prime Minister's official residence in Balwatar, the leaders discussed completing the remaining task of the peace process, according to the private secretariat of the Prime Minister. The meeting also reviewed the progress and experience of the 17 years of the Comprehensive Peace Accord and discussed plans for the days ahead. Bringing a formal end to the 10-year-long armed conflict, the CPA was signed by the then CPN Maoist chairperson Pushpakamal Dahal Prachanda and the then Prime Minister Girija Prasad Koirala on 21st of November 2006. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal Prachanda has said the country's economy is gradually improving despite being under pressure. During a discussion with representatives of the private sector regarding the country's economic situation in Singh Durbar yesterday, the Prime Minister said that the government was with the private sector to make the country's economy vibrant and dynamic. He also called on all concerned sides to collaborate with each other to revitalize the country's economy. The Prime Minister added that the government was forming a separate mechanism to curb the rising interest rates of banks and financial institutions and to address the problems seen in the cooperative sector. On Monday, the Prime Minister had held discussions with concerned ministries, secretaries and chiefs of Nepal, Rashtra Bank and National Planning Commission regarding ways for the country's economic reform. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal Prachanda has pledged to lobby the developed countries to fulfill their commitments to limit the global temperature rise during the COP28 conference. Addressing the National Conference on Climate Change in Kathmandu yesterday, Prime Minister Dahal said Nepal would also put forth its claim on the climate action as well as speedy and full implementation of the agreements to provide the climate financing as grant for climate adaptations and resilience. He warned that there could be rise in the cases of climate change-induced disasters, food security crisis, and scarcity of water in the developing countries like Nepal. Prime Minister Dahal stated that 2/3 of the glaciers of the mountains in this region were melting due to global warming. He added that landslides and dry droughts were increasing in hilly areas and incidents of flood were rampant in the Tarai region. He also stated that Nepal had made arrangements for and formulated and implemented programs related to appropriate policy, legal and institutional and financial provisions for promoting climate resilience. The National Conference was organized to form a common viewpoint on the position paper to be prepared by Nepal and presented in the upcoming Global Climate Change Conference. Ministry of Communication and Information Technology has urged all not to use unsecured networks to have access to the blocked application TikTok. Issuing a statement yesterday, the ministry called on all not to use unsecured networks including free VPNs and open DNS, citing risk of personal data theft and blackmail. The ministry's statement comes after it received information that some users were using blocked TikTok app via unsecured networks like VPN. The government of Nepal has banned TikTok, citing disruption to social harmony. Cyber Bureau of Nepal Police has also requested all not to use any risky networks to access the banned application and sites including TikTok. You're listening to Radio Nepal's 8 a.m. English News Bulletin. Now on to some international update. Israel's cabinet has voted for a deal to secure the release of some of the hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza. Meanwhile, the leader of Hamas has said the group is close to reaching a truce agreement with Israel, raising hopes of a pause in hostilities in Gaza that could see hostages freed. According to the Guardian newspaper, the most senior political leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, has said a truce agreement with Israel may be close and the group had delivered its response to Qatari mediators. The BBC has quoted Qatari Foreign Ministry spokesperson Majid al-Ansari as saying talks are at the closest point to reaching an agreement since the conflict began. He said talks for captive release were at critical and final stage. Qatar has helped broker talks aiming to free some of the 240 hostages in return for a temporary ceasefire. U.S. President Joe Biden on Monday said he believed a deal was close. The number of displaced people by the rains in Somalia have gone up by 100,000 in just 1 week, bringing the number to close to 650,000 people. According to the BBC, the heavy rains that started in October have killed over 100 people in the Horn of Africa. Entire towns have also been cut off in parts of Kenya and Ethiopia. The areas affected had barely recovered from the worst drought to hit the region in 4 decades. As more rains are forecast, people are abandoning their homes and moving to dry land as governments and aid agencies try to reach those affected. Now a sports update. Nepal lost to Yemen 2-0 in yesterday's FIFA World Cup qualifiers' second round match. This is Nepal's second defeat in this round. Nepal had lost to the United Arab Emirates by 4-0 in an earlier match. Now, the general weather forecast for the country for today. According to the Meteorological Forecasting Division, the weather will be partly cloudy in the hilly areas of Kosi Province, Baghmati Province and Gandaki Province, and partly cloudy to mainly fair in the rest of the country. There are also possibilities of light snowfall at 1 or 2 places of the high hilly and mountainous region of Kosi Province, Baghmati Province and Gandaki Province. With this, we have almost come to the end of this news bulletin, but before wrapping up, let's have a reminder of the headlines once again. Top leaders hold discussions on completing remaining task of peace process. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal pledges to lobby developed countries to fulfill their commitments for climate action. Communication and Information Technology Ministry urges all not to use unsecure networks and VPN. And Hamas leader says the group is close to reaching truce agreement. Well, that's all the news we have for this bulletin. Our next bulletin in English will be at 2 in the afternoon. You can also listen to us online at our website, www.onlineradionepal.gov.np. Keep listening to Radio Nepal and have a good day.